Hello, friends. Welcome to another section of With All Your Rights. With you, Attorney Cobo-Estrella, here to help you know a little bit about the laws in Puerto Rico, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, place I call home. Now, here what we do, we're federal trial lawyers. We're also federal employment discrimination lawyers. What we try to do is help particularly federal employees in Puerto Rico protect their careers in federal employment and defend or assert their rights in the court of law and also in the federal agencies in Puerto Rico. As you probably know, federal law prohibits discrimination based on age, race, national origin, color, disability, and gender, among other things. And these laws are put in place by Congress to protect individuals that they believe are in protected groups that have traditionally been subject to discrimination in the workforce and the employment force. Now, in the federal employment, we help federal employees assert their rights when they're in a hostile work environment or they're being subjected to some kind of adverse employment action. Situations that could be potentially adverse actions, and they could be based on a pretextual excuse, but they could be essentially acts of discrimination, which are forbidden by law. B, you're passed on for a promotion that you're qualified for. Your reasonable accommodation request is being denied. Your performance evaluation does not actually match your actual performance and the job. Or you're in a situation where there are degrading comments which are based, primarily on something relating to one of these categories that are forbidden by law that I just explained. So when you're in this situation, also a situation that could happen is that you have exercised your right. You file a complaint of discrimination, you went to human resources, you let the agency know that there's something wrong, and you somehow feel retaliated against in one of these areas. So these are things that are prohibited by federal law. You may need to know your rights so that you can exercise your rights, and that's what you may want to consult with an attorney that can help you. Now, some of the federal laws that protect you are, for example, Title VII, which prohibits discrimination based on race, also and gender, among other things. You have also the Rehabilitation Act. The Rehabilitation Act is essentially the same thing as ADA, which prohibits discrimination based on disability and also prohibits discrimination in the sense of not granting reasonable accommodation when it's not something that's an undue hardship to the agency. You also have the Equal Pay Act, which requires basically essentially that women and men should be paid equally for the same position, same job, same duties and responsibilities. You also have the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, which prohibits discrimination against individuals who are 40 and over. Now, these are laws that are put in place to protect individuals like you. Now, you as a federal employee, you need to be familiar with the process that you have to go through to file these complaints and begin the process. Why? Because there are some specific time periods which are necessary for you to comply with in order for your case to prosper. For example, when you have a situation when you feel that you've been discriminated against and you're a federal employee, you only have a short period of time, 45 days, to begin. Commands that contact the EEO of that particular agency to begin the process. Make sure you have evidence that you reached out and you contacted them so that you begin the process. That's necessary because the law requires you to contact the agency and begin the EEO process within 45 days of the date of the adverse action, the adverse employment action, or the moment that you feel that you've been discriminated against. That's important so that the process can continue. Once you go through the informal and the formal complaint process and they do the investigation, you request a final agency decision, which is a decision on the merits, and the EEO issues a decision whether they believe that there had been discrimination or not. And at that point, if you're not happy or satisfied with the decision of the agency, the EEO, you have a jurisdictional period of 90 days from the date of notice of that final agency decision to go to court, District Court of Puerto Rico, and file your civil action based on these causes of action that you allege and you kept you place on your initial complaint of the EEO. So very important that you know what causes of action you may be entitled to. You include them in your EEO complaint. You follow the process through. Make sure you have as much evidence that you have to document you support your case or your allegations, and make sure that you exercise your right and you go to court within that period of time. This is where an attorney may be helpful to represent you through the EEOC process and also all the way up to the court, be able to represent your court. They're familiar with the rules, procedures, the time limits that to act and things that have to be done, and they can be helpful to you.